Welcome to your weekly Canadian astrology forecast for April 20th to the 26th, 2026. My name's Adeana. I'm an intuitive astrologer. This week, we are working with some of the most pivotal defining transits of the year. Transits that are not only activating our nation's chart in a very personal way, but also shifting the collective direction of the nation itself. This means that this week is deeply personal because we are not just having external events unfolding, but this is about identity, leadership, and direction and how Canada asserts itself on the global stage. Every single transit this week is touching core areas of communication, finances, national security, infrastructure, and collective power. We begin the week on April 20th with Mercury conjunct Saturn and Mars in Aries, activating Canada's first house of identity, leadership, and national direction. This is not a light transit. This is sharp, decisive, and intense. Mercury is how information moves. Saturn is structure and restriction. Mars is action and conflict. When these three come together in Aries, there is a very clear tone. Decisions must be made, and they must be made quickly, but they also carry weight and long-term consequences. Now, the best expression of this energy can look like strong leadership, strategic communication, the ability for Canada to take decisive action, especially around policy, military matters, or national identity issues. There is a sense of we know who we are and we are moving forward with clarity. This could manifest as firm government decisions, new regulations, or assertive positioning on global matters. But the lower expression of this energy can be where things can become reactive, defensive, or even aggressive. Communication can turn sharp, harsh, or fear-driven. There may be conflicts between leadership figures or pressure on the government to act quickly without fully considering the emotional impact on the population. Mars can bring anger, Saturn can bring fear, and Mercury can amplify both through messaging. Then we get to April 23rd, and this is where we reach a major culmination point. Venus forms a conjunction to Uranus and Taurus, which is in Canada's second house of finances, resources, economy, and national values. This is the final conjunction of Venus to Uranus and Taurus before Uranus leaves this sign, making this a closing chapter moment around Canada's financial evolution over the past several years. This is disruption, but it's also liberation. The highest expression of this transit can bring financial breakthroughs, innovative economic shifts, new technologies or policies that redefine how Canada generates and distributes wealth. There could be unexpected gains, new alliances in trade, or shifts in currency systems or value structures that ultimately create more freedom. However, Uranus does not move gently, so the lower expression of this energy can look like financial instability, market volatility, sudden changes in economic policy, or unexpected expenses or losses. Venus represents comfort and stability, and Uranus shakes that foundation. So there may be moments where Canadians feel uncertain about money, resources, or economic security. Then we get to April 24th, and Venus moves into Gemini, shifting into Canada's third house of communication, media, transportation, and local communities. Immediately, the energy lightens, but it also speeds up. Conversations increase, information flows rapidly. There's a heightened focus on messaging, media narratives, and how Canadians are connecting with one another. The highest expression of this transit can bring collaboration, curiosity, and intelligent dialogue. It can also support positive media coverage, diplomatic conversations, and a sense of community engagement. Canada may find new ways to communicate its value both internally and externally. However, the lower expression of this energy can look like energy that becomes very scattered, inconsistent, or superficial. Misinformation can spread quickly. Narratives can shift rapidly, or there could be confusion or mixed messaging from leadership or media outlets. Then we get to April 25th, one of the most significant days of the week. Uranus enters Gemini, officially shifting from Canada's second house into Canada's third house, while the Sun in Taurus is going to form a square to Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius, activating Canada's second house and 11th house. And so let's start with the Uranus entering Gemini transit. This is a long term shift that begins now. Uranus in Gemini will revolutionize how Canada communicates, how information moves, and how communities connect. This is the beginning of a technological and intellectual evolution. We are looking at advancements in media, transportation, education systems, and digital infrastructure. The highest expression of this transit over the next decade is innovation, where Canada becomes a leader in communication, technology, digital systems, and information exchange. New ideas, new voices, and new ways of thinking can begin to emerge. However, the lower expression of this energy over the next decade can look like chaos in communication, sudden changes in media narratives, disruptions in transportation systems, or challenges in how information is regulated and distributed. There could be a sense of unpredictability in the collective mind. Now, touching on the Sun in Taurus, square Pluto in Aquarius transit, which is activating Canada's second and 11th house, Canada's second house of finances and 11th house of government alliances and collective power structures. This is a power struggle. The Sun represents leadership and visibility, while Pluto represents transformation, control, and deep systematic change. When these two clash, there could be tension between financial priorities and collective goals, between what is valued economically and what is demanded by the people or global alliances. The highest expression of this transit can bring necessary transformation, Canada confronting outdated systems and restructuring them for long-term empowerment. There is an opportunity here for Canada to reclaim power in a way that is aligned with collective evolution. However, the shadow expression can manifest as power struggles with government, tension between leadership and the public, and also intense debates around economic policy and resource distribution. There may be pressure from global alliances or internal groups demanding change. Then we get to April 26th, and this is where we have Mercury in Aries forming a square to Jupiter in Cancer, activating once again Canada's first house and Canada's fourth house, while we also have Venus in Gemini forming a sextile to Neptune in Aries. So let's touch on Mercury square Jupiter first. This brings exaggeration, big statements, bold claims. This can amplify communication, but it can also distort it. There may be overpromising, overestimating, or emotional reaction tied to national identity and domestic matters. The highest expression of this transit is visionary thinking, big ideas about Canada's future, expanding perspectives on homeland and national security. However, the lower expression of this energy can lead to miscommunication, inflated expectations, or emotional decision making. There may be tension between leadership direction and domestic concerns. Now let's touch on the Venus sextile Neptune transit, which softens the energy and brings a moment of compassion, creativity, and spiritual alignment. This is an opportunity for healing, for unity, and for reconnecting with Canada's deeper values and identity. At its highest expression, this can bring artistic expression, humanitarian efforts, and a sense of collective empathy. Canada can tap into its softer power, its ability to lead through compassion and vision. However, the lower expression of this energy can bring illusion. There could be idealism that is not grounded in reality, or a tendency to avoid confronting difficult truths. So, as we close the week out, Canada is standing at a threshold. This is not a passive week. It is a week of decisions, shifts, and redefining direction. This is Canada's moment to understand our power and to start using it. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments below how you enjoy this Canada astrology forecast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content, and I will connect with you in the next one.